Hello everybody, my name is Amanda Dambuza and welcome to another exciting episode of Vastly Sage here on YouTube. Today I have very exciting entrepreneurs who were also the top 6 finalists of the Bold Woman Award with Verve Clicko. So I am incredibly proud to be having this conversation because I really think that there's so much to be said here for entrepreneurs and alternative businesses, as well as transitioning from corporate. And I know a lot of people are trying to do this, so let's get on with it. Phumzile Chifunyise, who is the CEO and founder of the Crop Box, and as well as Matebe Modise, who is the founder of and CEO, in fact. Please, can I just not shortchange you? And CEO of Beauty on Tap, an e-commerce platform. The Crop Box is an agripreneur business, and I just want to get into it already because I'm so excited. So let's start with you, Matebe. You transitioned, you're a chartered accountant. You worked in investment banking as a credit analyst for a while, and you stayed in investment banking until you decided this was it. Mm-hmm. But whilst you were in corporate, you founded Beauty on Tap, which is, I think you said at the time it was an e-retailer. Mm-hmm. So you were just selling beauty products at the time. Mm-hmm. And you decided that, investment banking with all its big perks and wonderful salaries and bonuses, you decided let's trade that in for a life of hardship. Tell us about your journey. How did this transition happen?
Yeah, so I started Beauty on Tap in 2015.
Yes.
And the e-commerce side of it, I started in 2016, a year later. And I co-founded it with somebody that I actually worked with at the bank.
Uh-huh.
And, before COVID, it was just like, chugging along and growing like really slowly.
Slowly, yes.
Yeah. And people kept asking me, what do you want this to become? What do you want it to be? And I think kind of like figuring out what I wanted it to be and what I wanted, the purpose I wanted to serve took a while to get to and fine tune. But as soon as I fine-tuned that and got to it, and with COVID as well, with e-commerce kind of like trending and people becoming a lot more comfortable with digital shopping,
yes.
It kind of started to grow really fast.
Yeah.
And we're talking that, the psychological impact of having a business that's growing really fast and a full-time job. At the time I was working with the CEO of the bank as his executive assistant. Just the demanding nature of that role versus a growing business and having to do both at the same time was too much.
Yes.
And
Is
so
this why you decided it's time to jump over?
Yeah, but also the business had to be able to afford me as well, because
Yes, ma'am.
So I waited until I could pay my bills, and then finally I jumped ship and went into entrepreneurship full time.
Well, that means it's doing very well because I'm pretty sure you ain't cheap.
Yes, it's trying.
We'll come back to this conversation in a bit. Phumzile, you are an agripreneur. Listen, not many people go into agriculture as a business. Why did you do this? You qualified with a journalism qualification. You worked in 2 very large corporate organizations before you decided this is it. I'm also trading in my perks and wanna go. And you chose one of the toughest businesses to be in. Tell us a bit more about your journey. What drove your transition, and what does the Crop Box do?
Yeah. First of all, I didn't have any aspirations of entrepreneurship at all, not by a long shot.
Yeah.
I bumped into entrepreneurship, and like a lot of my colleagues in this space who go in it with wide, big, excited eyes. For me, I was in entrepreneurship from a career perspective. I was an enterprise development manager at the South African Breweries, and ABN Bev Africa. And I led a program that developed and funded and mentored and coached young entrepreneurs across the country from an infrastructure funding perspective, as well as just exposing them to commercial markets. So my interaction with them, I kind of understood the challenges that they were faced with, and when I left corporate, because corporate was just changing, especially because the organization was also transitioning from a merger perspective, I thought it was an opportunity for me to tap into the challenges that I saw that they experienced by wanting to be an alternative market for urban farmers who were faced with challenges of competing with commercial farmers. They are operating on small spaces. So I wanted to specifically go to Hammanskraal, where I'm from, to form a pack house facility where I could aggregate farmers around that community in order to take them to commercial markets. When COVID-19 came, which is literally when I opened my business, I think it was 3-4 months in after opening my business, I had to shift the model into a mobile business that went to the farms in order to provide products, produce from farmers to households, which also from an e-commerce perspective is what COVID-19 thrust a lot of businesses to do. So the whole mobile businesses, mobile deliveries, household deliveries, so that's the space that the crop box started as. And then from then onwards, we grew into wholesale, supplying National Defence Force, going into other commodities like meat and poultry and eggs. And now we're wanting to do that on a more social scale. And we've now also started our own natural peanut butter products to diversify our product offering.
I like that. But you're also the National Planning Commissioner in the presidency, looking after youth, hey?
I look specifically after
township businesses.
Township business. So I'm still in the entrepreneurship space, still grooming marginalized businesses. That's my passion. So whether it's in agriculture or townships or women-owned businesses, my focus is on developing small business owners. And so what I do at the National Planning Commission is from a policy perspective. What can we do to lobby and to advocate and to advise policy and legislation that could change entrepreneurship?
That's a pretty cool job, actually. I mean, I think we always think those kind of policy jobs are reserved for, like, cadres and, and old people. Let me say mature people. so it's always pleasing for me. And I mean, I've had the great pleasure of listening to you guys when we were doing the adjudication for the Verve Clicker Bold Women Award. And when I was listening to both your stories, I was like, wow, I think we need to unpack this a whole lot more under different circumstances, because there's also something to be said for people who are sitting in their own corners and thinking, you know what, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go, I have these amazing ideas, but, I think there's nothing better than having young people showcase what they've been able to achieve, and not just in business but also in policy development, because this is another alternative career, right? Because people can actually study policy, public development, public summit, but then again, you're a journalist, right? By training,
by trade,
by trade and training. So this is it's a wonderful conversation to be having. I'm going to come back to you, of course. So Matebe, what is the difference between e-retailing and e-commerce?
Okay, so I mean, e-commerce is basically digitizing your business and making it available on digital platforms.
So it's like I would go into a physical store, only this time it's online.
It's online. Whereas a lot of people kind of don't understand that e-commerce can even be your apps, your fintechs, or e-commerce can be anything that takes your business into a internet world and where you can, digitize your business. Which versus e-retailing is kind of like, I mean, e-retailing has different models. Like, I mean, some of the big e-tailers are marketplaces, which is very different to what we do, which is, keeping the stock on us, retailing it. So we've basically built a shop on an internet platform. And that's basically the biggest difference between the two. So ours is more a shop that you kind of walk into virtually and get all your favorite products on.
This is a problem, I know. Once you're in the shop, you buy everything. And so you are a chartered accountant. And how do you find that training and that background enables your business now? Because let me tell you why I'm asking this question. Chartered accountants by training and their very nature are quite conservative people. and I sit on boards with chartered accountants. It's so much fun. And I'm a technology person, so you must understand how this, but you are all of those in one, essentially. You are, whilst I actually believe that whilst you are a beautypreneur, you're actually also a tech entrepreneur, right? So you're a chartered accountant turned beautypreneur, tech entrepreneur. How do you reconcile these two? What does your day look like when you're trying to manage these?
So I think the chartered accountant thing has its strengths and its weaknesses. So I think from like a growing the business perspective, it kind of holds you back a bit because you're conservative in all the decisions that you make, the kind of risk you want to take. So I honestly feel that my business's growth has been slowed down by my chartered accountantness, which is good and bad, because the strength then is that you're able to harness that growth in. So I know, like, the one thing I always say to entrepreneurs is don't let your business's growth run away with you. Don't grow too much that you can't fulfill orders, that you start dropping the ball. So the one thing where it's really helped me is I've been very measured in how the business grows, and kind of like strategically directing that growth. So now it's like we trying to expand, and the one thing I even tweeted about it the other day is that my auditing skills from building procedures and testing processes and doing walkthroughs has really kind of helped me develop processes in the business as well, because
a systemic way of doing things.
Exactly, because beyond a shop front and us selling beauty and it's glamorous, there's still a business behind all of it that has to run, and we have to have controls not to lose money, controls to make sure that we deliver on time, to keep kind of like the same process running every day. So from that perspective, my auditor nature and banker has helped a lot, because I've learned a lot from investment banking in terms of work ethic and kind of passing it down onto the team as well. Beauty and tech, I've just had to learn along the way. So those have been the things that I've had to learn, but at least the business side of the business is taken care of. But the beauty and the tech side, I'm constantly learning every day.
So which came first for you? Passion for beauty or tech, or passion for business?
Passion for entrepreneurship, passion for or more purpose for helping small businesses. Because I mean, even when I was younger, when I was 11, I started a business called Bakatsi, and I thought I was going to empower women. And I mean, it's still even on my CIPC profile. I'm like, oh my word, this thing is still here. But it was more purpose of I want to help small businesses, and then it was like a passion for beauty as well. But I mean, the business side is the boring side, but it's the more important. It has to happen though.
So you started your first business when you were 11 years old.
When I was 11, my mom was like, I should have seen there was an entrepreneur in you, because you always used to start little businesses and then you'd let them go. So
but look, full circle, right? But you also started your own brand. So maybe just before we talk about pastry, and Pumzile, maybe just prepare yourself as well for this question in terms of how you started your own business, how you funded it, because this is always the top question that everybody asks. I want to start a business, but I don't have the cash. I want to start a business. How do I go about it? So you went ahead and first of all, Beauty on Tap does what's your business model?
So our business model is we are a distributor, so we aggregate a whole lot of brands onto one platform and let people shop their favorite cosmetics from cleanser to serum on one platform. And we keep everything on us to make that efficiency of delivery much faster. So that's the model.
And you decided, I'm going to actually come up with my own product as well. You formulated pastry. Which, by the way, I think it looks, there's nothing I love more than products that are just, the packaging is simple, looks hygienic. Like it's a big psychological thing, right? And how you design that. How did that come about? Was it exciting?
It was so exciting. So pastry was more, so pastry has two sides to it on why it was, it was born. So the first side was we had customers asking us questions on, I want skincare for my body. Like, why can't you guys find brands that are like face care but for my body? And we looked in the market locally, and there wasn't really anything like that, like body care with active ingredients. And that's how Pastry was born. But more than that, I truly believe that any retailer should have an anchor brand, especially if you are retailing similar products to other retailers. You need something to differentiate your brand and to pull people back into the brand. And I mean, a lot of big e-commerce companies or e-tailers have actually done that. They've launched their own brand that is like, even, like Sephora, for instance, has their own range that you can only get at Sephora. So Pastry was also a strategic decision to say, let's build something, or let's formulate a really amazing product that is made for South African women or African women, and let's make it exclusive to Beauty on Tap. And so there were two kind of like sides to Pastry.
Okay. But also that ensures longevity, right? And sustainability of the business. Because you could easily pivot from being an aggregator of others to actually just full on your own brand. That's pretty smart. I can see the chartered accountant in you came through there. I'm going to come back to you on the funding question. Phumzile, just before that funding question, I just want to ask you about these farmers that you work with. I mean, your business is like, whilst that's glam, this is like zero glam.
Absolutely.
unless you look at an onion and think, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful.
This is not the case. No.
So how did you transition into whilst I appreciate you used to work with entrepreneurs and that understanding, but now you are boots on the ground and you are at the coalface of their struggles, and I don't think there's, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's an entrepreneurial sector that's been hit hardest, than the agricultural sector, particularly small-scale farmers. So how do you work with them? What is the everyday look like for the crop box and you?
Yeah, same philosophy. So we are also an agri distributor. Only we don't keep the products in our facilities. In fact, we don't have facilities.
Yes.
We do direct farmer to client deliveries.
Yes.
And so
from farmer to table.
From farmer to table, literally to your door, and that's the model, right?
Yes.
And when COVID-19 came, there was this need for consumers to want to know where their food comes from, transparency within the supply chain, short supply chains. And so that's the angle that I wanted to go into, being conscious of the fact that we are living in such a technical environment. Even our food is modified to some extent or another. So I really wanted to take this opportunity to bridge the gap between farmers and consumers, which is up until very recently has been a very widened gap. People who pick up a piece of lettuce on the table or in the fridge don't know where it comes from. And farmers don't know where their food ends up. So both of them are sort of not finding each other, and I wanted to bridge the gap.
No man's land.
Not only from a functional perspective of literally fetching the food from the farm and taking it to the retailer or the consumer, but also from an understanding perspective. It's very educational, and my social medias when I started was all about educating our consumers on this is where our farmers come from, and even on our website you can see that our farmer base is largely in Krugersdorp.
Yes.
Literally my videos would show me driving to a farm and picking up the lettuce and the tomato. I felt that it's important that we empower consumers with that knowledge of where their food comes from, and so the model is built on shortening the supply chain. Also from a freshness perspective, you find that products usually spend such a long time in transit or such a long time on the shelf. You don't know when it was harvested, and so our USP was fresh from the farm. You get it on the same day of harvest. It's delivered to you right on your doorstep, in order to preserve as much of the nutrients as possible.
And are they struggling is it a big struggle for them to get into, for example, the large retailers into that supply chain?
It is, because you need infrastructure to do that, and not a lot of farmers have that infrastructure.
What
So
kind of
logistics, for
infrastructure?
example,
Like trucks and
trucks. You need to have at least an 8-ton truck. And also, depending on your commodity, it needs to be a refrigerated truck, which we know with diesel, the high cost of diesel, it's not very cheap to run that.
Yeah.
But also, if you do have a truck, you don't deliver every day. So what do you do with that truck in order to make sure that you maximize on your investment? But at the same time, the industry is also evolving, where retailers themselves are competing with distributors ourselves by going directly to the farmers. So you have to be very selective on which market you play in, and that's where we come in. Our USP is also over and above farm fresh deliveries, is to say we enable you to have that for your consumers. We become the face and the driver of fresh produce for you, because we know that you can't go to every farm.
You
don't have that reach. So we can do that. We've got a network and a base of farmers that we communicate with, that we work with, and we've got relationships with, and we can do that on your behalf and offer you the same value that as if it were you going to the farmers to go and get it directly. So it serves the purposes for both the farmers who don't have that capacity, as well as the retailers who would want that and who want to get into that conscious space, but don't have the capacity as well.
Yeah, but I guess also, their business is not farming. Their business is
it's selling food. So where it comes from, they really couldn't care less. So it also depends. And then sometimes it's from a cost perspective. You can get it cheaper because it's fresh from the farm. Or it can be a freshest version of, or the best quality version if you had to scan the market. So it depends on who the client is, and that's sort of what you tug when you approach a new client to say, this is what we want to bring for you. I can see that you're already in this space, but what I want to bring to the table is directly from the farm, which means this, and that.
Yes. So I when I started my business 10 years ago, I started being an entrepreneur when I was 22, 23 years old. Sure. But this big, when you are like your big time. This big time came 10 years. Oh, well, actually it came before 10 years ago, and that failed. But then I was like, I'll do it again, and 10 years later now, I cashed out 80,000 rands from my pension. Now, of course, no wealth manager or financial planner or broker wants to hear this, right? You're destroying your future. But I just never understood this concept of having money just sitting there and I need it now to build something and I can't access it. But fortunately, and I think they've now changed those rules, because every time I changed a job, I would cash out some pension and then do something with it, like start a business or buy a property. And so I did that and loaned that to my company and started the business that way. How did you fund your businesses? Let's start with you, Pumza.
I think it's relative to where your business is. I was self-funded. Everything up until this point for the crop box is self-funded.
Yes. What does self-funded mean? Did you borrow from your partner, from your mom, for your friend, or you saved it when you were in corporate and then you used that money?
I also took from my pension fund. So it really wasn't money lying around. I took from my pension fund, but also I want to stress the fact that self-funding means the big amounts, as well as the little amounts. Because on Facebook, for example, promoting and boosting your product, it's your money. And at the time when I started, I did it out of my personal account, because it was a couple of hundred rands I boosted for the So it's easy to self-fund, if you had to define it like that. But I did take from my pension fund as well. And I actually want to encourage self-funding when you're starting out. Because I suppose the private sector person in me, I don't have the time to wait for bureaucracy and all the processes of forms and applying for funding and, you don't have this document and, so I didn't have that patience. But also, I wanted to take off because I was clear on the direction of the business. But I also didn't want to use that notion of I need funding to build a business to hold me back.
Yeah.
Which is what I find that with a lot of young people, I need funding, I've got a business plan, and they use that as a crutch.
Yes.
They don't take off because of that.
Yes.
But when you want to scale your business, which is where I'm at right now, almost 3 years into the business, I now see the value of using somebody else's money, because I want my next level of the business to be quality, to be research-based, to be insight-based. This is the next level. I want scale, I want brick and mortar, but it needs to be quality version of it. It's not to say that I can't do it myself, but I think it makes business sense for me to do it properly and go and find funding for that. So in summary, I started, even diversifying into our natural peanut butter. I bought the machine with the business's funds because I really wanted it to take off. But when it comes to scaling and taking the business to the next level, I think the wise thing to do is to leverage on funding also.
And I actually resonate with that, and I'm going to come back to you on your peanut butter product because I'm quite fascinated in terms of how you decided on peanut butter, and how did you fund you? You're an investment banker, so tick. How did you actually fund your business?
Yeah, so I was an investment banker. So I used my bonuses to fund my business. But I made sure that the distribution terms that we had with a lot of brands was consignment, 30 days. And so building the website, that was not that much. Building a website is not too expensive. So I also encourage people, if you can, build a website and do e-commerce or e-tailing. And then
you can even build it for free.
You can build it for free. There's so many platforms. Even Canva lets you build a website right now.
Yeah. Even Google. I'll say Google because my friend works there.
Yeah. So then, negotiating terms. So the business started funding itself quite early.
Yes.
And then as it grew...
So it started funding itself quite early because of how you negotiated with the terms.
Yeah.
So negotiating the
Negotiate terms. And when you negotiate terms, you have to sell the value that you're bringing to that brand.
Yes.
So then that happened. And then as your business starts growing and you start dealing with larger brands, now the terms, that's negotiation.
Now you must be the...
Yes, now you must fund. So, I'd kind of drip fund, so I'd put more money into it, my own money. But now we expanding into brick and mortar. We're opening our first store.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
In April, right?
In
Is
April,
that still on target at the Mall of Africa?
Yes, it's on target. But as Pumzile said, you want it to look proper, you want it to look beautiful. And the whole objective of Beauty on Tap is to sell beauty differently in the country. I think we've lost so many beauty retailers, and normally we use department store model. We don't have the same model as overseas where beauty is fun and fresh and you walk into the store and so doing that properly and saying we want to target 4 stores in a year, you need money. So I was really lucky that Beauty on Tap has built a profile with our bankers, so getting funding was really, really easy with them.
Wow. I think that's because you know them.
They
use their language speak to get each other because that's one of the toughest things.
Pricing on this, and they were like, "How do you know?" No, they don't.
Go to this window.
No, so actually, our business banker didn't know that where I worked because it's an affiliate bank, it's a sister bank, but they didn't know I was there. But in terms of getting quick service, I use connections, but they didn't know. So they've completely funded most of the store, and also I was lucky. My dad passed when I was 13, and there was a policy that hadn't paid up up until last year. So I was really lucky that there was just money waiting for me.
Oh, wow.
So I've used some of that also to fund the store.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well,
yeah,
I mean,
right
sorry
time.
for losing your dad, but I mean, just, what do they call it? What's the English word?
Serendipity, I think it is. Like right time, right place.
Your train comes in.
Yes. So
just when you need it.
I know.
Just when you need it.
Just when I need it.
Talk about an angel somewhere
so
looking out for you.
That's half funding the store as well. But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But now you did it the other way around, because most businesses will have a brick and mortar store first and then digitize. So you pretty much reverse engineered this whole thing. You started online, now you want to do a brick and mortar shop. Is that something does that worry you, or are you are like boldly going into this because you yes, I like it.
I think we built a community. Like our e-commerce store has frequent customers. We have our people that buy every month with us. So, you know, we've done the studies to see where is our customer base, where are people highly concentrated. So that's why we chose Mall of Africa as our first, as our flagship store.
Nice.
Because that's where we know our customers are. So, I mean, this is something people have been asking for a long time as well, our customers. They don't want to pay shipping. They're like, I don't want to pay 90 Rand, but I'll pay 1,000 Rands. It's just like,
it's
it's so weird.
They want to feel
They want to feel it, they want to experience it. So, I'm very excited.
I'm excited for you. You must invite me to the lunch.
Of course.
I'm just inserting myself in there. and Pumzile. So how did you choose peanut butter particularly? Because I think, and I've had insight into this when we were doing the adjudication, but I actually wanted to share it with our viewers because it's so easy for people to think they always want to go for the big glamorous business ideas, whereas you know there's so much more that you can consider as alternatives. But what drove your peanut butter idea particularly, and why peanut butter?
Number one, I also wanted to secure my business. When you're a distributor, there's advantages and disadvantages, right? The advantages is that you don't carry the overhead costs of the manufacturer. But the disadvantage is that you work on, especially in agriculture where it's seasonal, you know, you work on somebody else's fortunes or misfortunes because that's where you're getting your product from. So if the season changes from a farmer perspective, like with potatoes, for example, one half of the year it comes from the north, the other half of the year it comes from the south, the potatoes. So for the time with the potatoes are expensive to source locally, you have to get it from KZN, for example. You have to switch now your product offering, and I didn't want to have that anxiety to say, oh my gosh, now I have to change. You know, because retailers also want sustainability, they want longevity, they want to know, okay, this is what you're offering, this is what you're going to bring to them. But so I at some point felt anxious that I need to have a product of my own that I can secure myself in case whatever happens.
Also like pastry and anchor.
Yes, an anchor product where I can sort of have a control over that. So I wanted to diversify, moving away or adding into our offering as a service business by having our own products, our own in-house products. And then the second reason is working with NGOs. I know how price sensitive they are, and a lot of the NGOs that we work with are mandated with feeding children and communities, low income communities, and what we find on the shelves are very modified, very rich in oils and preservatives types of products, and peanut butter is no different. And so I wanted to create a product that was natural, but that was good tasting. So I developed that formula of having the right taste, which is the third reason. The third reason would be on taste. A natural peanut butter that is good tasting, that is got higher nutrients from protein for a perspective, for example, than what a commercial product you would find on when we did our nutritional analysis. But also it tastes good. You know, you can taste the roasted peanuts. It's got that sweetness and that saltiness to balance. So it tastes really, really good.
Look at her. Peanut butter steaks in there. I think you're the right lesson next time.
next step is to bring it. But yeah, I consciously wanted to have a product where as well as lower level communities can benefit from the high nutritional values that what we higher income households are paying for. I mean, nutrition and health and pure products have become the rage.
Yes,
with,
organic
organic cakes, exactly.
Yeah.
But why should should lower end communities be excluded from that? You know, why should they get the the preservatives and food that's not pure and sustainable and nutritional rich. So those are my reasons for going into
I like
that.
So tell me something. The U.S. Embassy issued an alert to its citizens recently here in South Africa. And the alert was, you must stock up on food for 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
This is a recent alert, like literally like 3 weeks ago type alert. And said, stock up on food, make sure you have at least 3 days worth of food.
Yeah.
Should we be stocking up on food because there's a shortage of food somewhere? Are farmers... Of course, we know farmers are struggling because of load shedding and all of that impact.
Yeah.
But are we going to experience a food shortage situation? Should we be stockpiling?
Well, we've sort of been on that journey for the past couple of years since COVID-19, right? And we saw also with the Ukraine-Russia war how global supply chains have just been interrupted. Never mind, even from an availability perspective, from a price perspective.
Yes,
I mean, people will speak of the price of sunflower oil that skyrocketed. There was a point where last year tomatoes tripled in price because of climate change. So I think the risk to food security has and always will be there. For a variety of reasons. Climate change, which is of no one's doing, and even in South Africa, where it's not, subtropical, it's not in, super ice cold, but global warming has just changed so much, or climate change is just affecting food so much that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you would experience it. So from a climate change perspective, a pricing and supply chain, global supply chain perspective, and cost of living and diesel and fuel cost perspective. So we're always at the risk in terms of food security, which is why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing. I really find that if we were to do a lot of what I am doing, which is to provide food on the table, we could preserve food security.
Yes.
Even at a household level. I'm not even talking about malnutrition, which is the extreme realities of the industry, but food security is always going to be at risk. Although in South Africa, it's a lot better than what we're seeing in Africa and the rest of the continent. We are not heavily food insecure. But we do have pockets within the country where some demographics are facing food security or malnutrition, kids especially. So it's something that we always have to be conscious of and ensure that we protect.
That's why children, you must finish your food at home. Somebody's starving somewhere. Some little child is starving somewhere. So then I take it the answer is no. There's no big emergency, but it is a continuous risk.
Correct.
Which, by the way, even the United Nations has this as part of their SDGs, where food security is a real thing. And so I just think also, though, because you are in the coal face of food. In fact, I think you are not an agripreneur. You are in food security. That's your business. I think that's how you actually said it.
Yes. It's one of the principles. Food security. Yeah.
And has the supply chain impacted your business? The supply chain issues, because I mean, pastry. You do your own packaging and all that. Where do you get your? You don't have to tell me if it's competitive information, but have you been affected by that?
Yeah, so I think during COVID, when we started like really adding more brands, you just hear them say we don't have stock of certain things because we can't find packaging or there aren't certain ingredients. But the biggest issue we're facing now is on load shedding with packaging production. Things take a lot longer to make now, so the lead times are much longer. So that's what is really affecting us. Everyone is kind of like grabbing at packaging and stockpiling. We're stockpiling packaging now. Like our office is full of boxes of packaging. So whenever we find, we're like buy it immediately. Like somebody will say we have 600. Like I'm like buy it now. So that's largely what's affecting our business. And I mean, you know, the thing with cosmetics, if people can't find what they're looking for, they go to the next brand. They move on.
There's not a lot of brand loyalty.
No.
But you would think for skincare and
because skincare is very ingredient based. If someone like hyaluronic acid is hyaluronic acid. So people will be like, okay, next, you know, if you don't have, then I'll try
I'll
the next
go to the
thing.
next one.
But you know, pastry has love, so people kind of like hold on, but we need to get that right, especially with load shedding.
Well, I'm enjoying this conversation so much. I could do this all day. But I'm going to ask you some like a wrap up question. Where do you see yourselves and your business going in the next, you know? And I don't want to say next 5 years. That's way too long for anybody. I've been running my business for 10 years, and I'm running it for 9 years. It's 10 years old, and I'm thinking, okay, dear Uyandiswa, I'm done. I feel like I need to submit a resignation letter to myself. but where's your headspace in terms of what you're seeing as the trends in your own industries and how you are going to ride on those or harness those to build up these businesses and make sure that they are sustained well into the future? I'll start with you, Matthew.
So I think for me the biggest thing is expanding onto the continent. We've just launched even international shipping, so we're trying to go global now. But it's just opening stores. I won't do like lots of stores. Like I want it to also be as niche as possible. So definitely opening more stores to just give people an affordable luxury beauty shopping experience. We don't have a lot of that. So, and I mean, the beauty retailers, the international ones have said, we're not coming to Africa. So I'm like, if you're not coming, it's fine. We'll build our own. Exactly. So that's what we're going to be doing, and just expanding pastry and looking for a lot more local brands. I want to start an incubation program for brands now, teaching packaging, how to formulate, how to market. So I want to start a program where we take on 2 brands and then give them a distribution network also, because I think it's important to do that as well. So wonderful. That's what I'd like to do.
But you also work with small scale entrepreneurs who get their products onto your e-commerce platform. And do you then, are these some of the targeted businesses that you want to help to grow their processes and procedures and access?
So we get listing requests like every day, and the feedback will just be, you know, your packaging isn't there yet, or these are the packaging and, you know, the health regulation standards. We need certain, you know, ingredients and stuff. So, you know, we have the knowledge because we've built up a library of knowledge at Beauty on Tap. So instead of saying no to brands and saying you can't access our distribution network, let's rather fix your business,
and
fund
help
it,
you get there.
and help you get there. We already have a network for distribution to on-sell their products. So it's important to pour back into those brands as well and not necessarily say no.
I like that. I like that, purpose-led. And so you are excited about the future?
So excited. I can't wait. Like, I'm so excited. So, like, it's just like the retail, the brick and mortar side is like starting a new business. So it's very exciting. I want to see what happens with that.
I look forward to that. And Phumzile, you?
Definitely more clients. I was telling Mateo that we've just signed on new clients this week. It's a hospital that I'm looking forward to. Also brick and mortar. So traditionally the crop box has been, you know, a box of crops coming to you. But I think because it's post-COVID, people want to touch and experience and come in And we also want to provide an opportunity for people to be able to make their own selections as well, and not ascribe for them. I'm also looking forward to establishing our own brick and mortar in the near future. From a product perspective, exporting is definitely something that I want us to tackle. We now finalizing our listing with a retailer, although it's in South Africa, but I think that, the journey towards exporting, I think I'm looking forward to that. And also in the social space, we bring in young unemployed people here and there when we're doing our activations with NGOs. So from a social perspective, I think it's very important that not only do we provide them with that workplace experience, but also to just generally provide an opportunity of exposing young people to agriculture, because it's a quote unquote a dying industry with a face that doesn't look like mine. It's male dominated, white male dominated to some extent, and so to a large extent. So I look forward to providing exposure to providing young people to exposing young people to agriculture, but also across the value chain as well. So it's not just about farming, So the land issue as well. A lot of people will say, I want to go into farming, but I don't have land. And we've moved beyond that, in the industry. People are actually farming without soil now, on rooftops, hydroponically, they're now in aquaponics, doing fish farming. There's so many other things that young people can do within the industry that I would like to expose them to. And also for us to leverage and to go into other areas of the value chain, the ocean economy, for example. How can we distribute into that space? So looking forward to exploring what the value chain looks like.
Well, listen, I think you guys entrepreneurship looks so easy. We all know it's not. Not at all. We were already sharing earlier about how much how longer it's taking to close deals, to close contracts, and the fact that it's actually taking us, taking businesses. You work harder for that one deal. Whereas, pre-COVID, you possibly, you put in the effort, but it wasn't this
as hard.
It's a slog right now. And I guess it's just the sign of the times, right? The confidence, but it will come back, the mood will come back. And the whole point of being an entrepreneur is that you have to persist. Especially when you're onto something good, right? And you just know when you're onto something good. And you just have to persist and persist. And I must say that I've enjoyed this so much. I was looking forward to it. I'm so glad we could do it. and I am immensely proud that, you are Verve Clico Bold Women alumni. You're the cohort. So this one is extra special, okay? And thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. I know this is going to help a lot of people.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
Well, that was another exciting episode of Vastly Sage, and I am immensely proud of these two entrepreneurs who are doing amazing things. And I think that, we all can learn so much from them. And that whole idea of finding your niche, I don't think you can actually exhaust that enough. Find your niche, try and solve a real problem. It's great to have amazing ideas as an entrepreneur, but if you're not solving a real problem, you're not going to be successful and you're not going to go very far. So I found that to be incredibly insightful. Also, back yourself up. I think this has been such a consistent theme, is back yourself up. If you're willing to put your entire future on the line because you want to build this business and you take out your last cent, for me, that is skin in the game, and that always goes a long way, and you should never forget that. And of course, continuously evolve your businesses, not just your businesses, but yourself as an entrepreneur. I think constantly looking forward to something really, really keeps you in the game long enough. So, well, until next time, cheers for now.